fish.
Welcome to live lore dump autistic rant ? I'm currently live recording with a friend who's in VC. You guys will not hear them, but I will be able to hear them in the background to give me feedback. And this is gonna be quite an interesting episode. Because I am very nervous, because I have never actually, fun fact, I've never actually recorded a video with anyone else in the VC who could hear what I was saying. Because I'm very much the type of person who like to talk to myself rather than have people around watching me, listening in, ironically speaking, as a streamer. But today is about my OC's lore, so it will be very sporadic, and I'm not sure how much editing is going to be, but I'm hoping for an hour worth of OC lore. So, to get into the first questions by Palo Bread, what were your biggest sources of inspiration for your OCs? That depends on who you're asking, to be honest, because like we have Fish, who is a hybrid, who was very heavily inspired by Resident Evil, especially the early games from Resi 1 to 4, I think, with like a little bit of 7 in it. And zombie movies and Ina, The Dream Barbecue, which is a game that you can play. That's by Joel. And it's also a YouTube series, yes. Where there are different like stuff that happens. I would genuinely recommend going and watching it because it's very fun, and I have watched all of it and played the game, and it's awesome. But with Cade, it was very much a large variety of things. Like I had a friend of mine compare my lore to Doctor Who. I have heavy inspiration from Alien Isolation, the Alien franchise, the first 3 movies specifically, because the rest are shite, in my opinion, but that's just fine. Hollow Knight, a lot of media that I consume has been what has influenced me to make Cade the way he is. But a lot of it is also just me, because Cade is very much me in a different sense. With Elios, it was a lot of religious conversation that I had, me indulging in religious conversations, both live and on my YouTube channel. That kind of spiraled into that. He was first made to be some demon, I think, or something like that, something else, but it kind of became Elios, who was very much also inspired by the 7 Deadly Sins, and ReZero, who has a subplot plot which is about the 7 Deadly Sins and stuff like that. Which also partially inspired Cade's gluttony traits. Patchwork was heavily inspired actually by just, I really like kid cool and old-esque stuff. Like if you've ever seen like kind of the backrooms type shit, the very much like you've been there but you can't remember kid cool type stuff. And my plushie that I have was kind of the main design choice for Patchwork, because I wanted it to be something that represented me, being a separate persona, but also being its own character. Something that would kind of be a reflection of Cade and his relationship with other people, with entities, how he handled that, but it became its own person. Patchwork became their own, like, OC with their own story, with their own traits and dislikes and likes, though that wasn't the intention. Midnight, I don't exactly remember what inspired Midnight, but over the years he has had different types of lore, though the most recent lore that I can remember that I said was his was made in a video where he was created to protect Cade and his species, and he's been there since the dawn of humanity. He was created after the Bestiary Keeper, so he's been there for a while. Yes, and Mr. Midnight came from Frambo, which is a horror game that was created about lobotomy and PTSD and trauma and psychosis and stuff like that. So if you are kind of sensitive to those sort of things, or heavy horror, and I mean like heavy, you should not watch that or play it, because it's not exactly play with the kids type shit. Sen. Sin is the antagonist of Kate's story and the antagonist of the world because they were created by the gods to kind of protect humans, or quote-unquote protect humans. Their kind of sense of protecting them, which was like make sure that supernatural entities like Kate wasn't able to come to Earth. But as Sin begun to track down each of them, she begun to become more sentient, learn her own likes and dislikes, and really liked power. She really likes power, and she became really power hungry. So she decided, fuck it, I'm gonna grab the Bestiaries book and find all the supernatural animals and kill all of them and consume their power. And then become a god. Because why the fuck not? Callahan. He doesn't have a concrete story at the moment, so I'm not too sure what I can say about him. Okay, I'm being told to yap about the D&D, so D&D Callahan is kind of a very extroverted person, or he seems extroverted, and the inspiration for him wasn't very much inspiration. It was more so I was given a concrete background of what he was, everything I've made a D&D video about already, but to keep it simple, basically I got the traits I was supposed to give him, and I kind of pulled out ideas after that. And he became this overly confident guy that tries so hard, and you can tell he tries to be a quote-unquote normal person, be one of the guys, but he's really an asexual, very introverted, like, shy guy that doesn't really like to be around other people. He very much likes his own space. And I am working on writing a story with him and a possible love interest. But aside from that, I don't really have much information I could give out about him. Aside from he is a bit flirtatious. He likes to flirt with people to get what he wants. He's very greedy. Like, Bible type shit greed. Because he values his self-worth with money. Like, the more money he has, the more his self-worth goes up. Because he basically has so much like trauma with like money being from poverty and all that sort of stuff that made him kind of associate confidence and being a valuable and worthwhile person tied to money. He does necromancy, he's a warlock, and he likes to go grave digging with his best buddy, which is a Patreon, which is Mr. Midnight. Yes, he is in Callahan's story, but they are from right now, they're separate entities, to be honest, because I don't think Midnight would really leave Kate's side. Or any of the other Bestiary Keepers. And there are not two Midnights. There's only one entity across all spaces of time. How does your creative process for making art of said OC usually work, and when making a new OC? My art process is very much what I want them to be perceived as. With Cade, a lot of his art was him in his voidling phase, looking confident, or with food, like the gluttony piece that I made for this very like popular song. It's supposed to show you a side of them as if you were to look at them through the lens of their own words and stuff like that. And I like to use saturated colors, like really bright colors, and often associate my OCs with different colors. Sin being purple, Kate is red, Patchwork is orange or turquoise, Elios is green, Midnight is black because, you know, Midnight, Callahan is white. But when it comes to making the pieces themselves, it's about giving lore, giving kind of a piece of the OC to show to you as the person perceiving it. And it's often lore-wise or them in their most natural state. With lore surrounding them, like with Cade, him being so tied to gluttony and food and needing to feed, hence the gluttony piece. And with Patchwork, is often shown in dissociation with multiple body parts and stuff like that, because he deals with a lot of dysphoria and self-image issues, being, you know, literally made from patch stuff. And with Callahan, he is often seen with money because it's how he wants people to perceive him. There's a lot of like kind of double meaning to it, and you can look at it different ways and discuss it. kind of like looking at a piece in a museum type shit, where you will just discuss what you think and perceive the pieces as. It's an invitation for discussion and showing what they represent, I guess, in a sense. But with new OCs, I'm not too sure, because it can really depend on my mood. Sin was created during a time where I was hyperfixated on one thing, and whilst Cade was created, was hyperfixated on other things. So they come a lot from the media, but the pieces themselves can come to me in my head, or it can be something I plan and draw down, though most of the time they do not require more than one sketch to kind of fit in where I want them to be, unless it's a very like a big piece that is very much about me trying to process and get better at a certain thing, like anatomy, like color, composition, etc, etc. And with the new OCs, I guess the best example I can give is I have one that I'm currently working on, which represents death. And with them, they were kind of shown from this show that I watched someone talk about, which I wanted to watch myself, which was representing death, though I haven't really gotten really good at designing characters and designing color-wise and all that sort of stuff. So I just kind of spitball it, go through several stages of what they could look like, what they are, and what I want them to look like, till I find something I'm satisfied with. Answers the question. Do you plan on making any reworks to said OCs in the future? No, not really. I think aside from clothing, I'm pretty happy with how my OCs look for now, especially Cade, Callahan, and Patchwork. They've already received a rework, and I like how they look. But I might do a rework or a better version of Elios. I always think of them as better versions or different versions that look similar but still give the same perception in them as they could be. What are the common themes for OCs and the world setting they live in? I don't really know. It's like I've had this world in my head since I was a kid. When I was young, I was in groups with people who did writing, and we made up this one world that we used to do writing in. But after kind of leaving all of that behind, becoming better, becoming a grown-up, basically, I kind of still had that world in my head. And for me, there are like several rules in the world. Like the gods cannot interact with humans. That is one rule that I've had, that I've held to, because I don't feel like gods should be able to interact with humans, and it does make sense to me, at least. And the only god I think who can interact with humans is Felt, who was a minor god. So minor gods might be able to interact with humans like through prayers, summons, that sort of thing, but you generally don't see gods really interact with the human world. Supernatural creatures are very common in the human world, but people are very scared of it, and that is why Mune Zero was pretty much created, and Kali created her Star Labs to kind of like be support and kind of middle ground for the supernaturals to come if they need help, if they have something they need, if they want, you know, a community. Though most supernatural creatures in my universe don't have much sentience. They can be correlated to like real life dogs, bunnies, that sort of thing. They have that kind of sentience. They don't know they exist. They can't speak vocally. Aside from a few different examples that I could talk about in a minute. But they don't really have a concrete sense of self. They are more just creatures. And the world is kind of like how you'd see the European map and the world in itself. Every country exists, but it's not developed to the same extent that real world would be. It's just where I want things to happen, where I feel like things should happen. My kind of I think common themes would be religion is a common theme in it, and people fighting for a space to be their own. Poverty is very common, and witches and all that sort of stuff, like Ram's coven was very common. They knew there were witches. It was just their perception of witches kind of changed over time from back in the 1600s to present day. They are natural, but it's the thing that humans are really scared of what they don't understand and don't know. So often humans would be scared of them. I don't think there are any hunters, but I might make like a hunter group for the supernatural creatures or whatever. But Cade is basically what protects the supernatural part of it, and he's the one that seeks them out to check, are they okay? Is the government doing anything? Are locals being killed, etc., etc., to kind of make sure that the supernatural creatures can exist in their space, but do not feed on humans, as there have been several examples in the bestiary where they will cross into the human territory and kill people, where Cade will have to step in. And Cade was specifically given the links and like connections to be able to kind of plan that sort of thing, though they don't know Cade as a person, they know Cade as a name that is like kind of respected by a lot of authorities because of the Kali and Star Slab. To yes and no. Now the thing is, voidlings feed on humans because they are dead people. They're basically what you'd expect a zombie to do. In the ether, they kill souls that wander down because it's their space, they're defensive. But when Cade came to Earth, he was basically given the mark of gluttony because the gods didn't really respect or like that he came to Earth. You know, it wasn't something they wanted. So they gave him the mark of gluttony, which means he will never truly be satisfied. That does not extend to just human flesh, that extends to anything. So for a while after Rem, he began hunting anything and everything to just try and satisfy that feeling. But he will never be satisfied as a person anymore, being on Earth. So it doesn't just extend to humans, it extends to anything and everything. Pretty much. Well, that is... Okay, so what they asked was, why does it stop? Why do kids stop other creatures when he himself indulges in human flesh? That is because only in Zero he kind of entered a state of, I don't want to hurt other people. So he found his own ways to deal with his hunger and made sure, like, he loves the supernatural. Entities are like his family in a kind of fucked up sense, like morally. He would protect the supernatural from anything. But if they overstep into the human realm and kill other people, he will... There's very rarely cases where he will kill anything. He will capture them and try to reteach them, you know. Because it's not exactly okay to just go and kill people, you know. Like, humans are supposed to be able to live together with the supernatural. So he's kind of that middle ground of morals where he will make sure that the supernatural creatures understand what they've done and can be taught to maybe find another way to feed feed for themselves and stuff like that. What is your OC's current timeline? How did they meet? When were they born? And current age? Is it the 1900s type? Now this is a fucking hard question to answer because there's an entire timeline of people. Okay, when Earth was created, you know, that entire thing happened. Cade was basically a part of that early stage, being a bestiary keeper who was created to kind of keep a timeline of the supernatural creatures throughout the Earth's existence. And he reincarnated from several different people, which I probably have the timeline somewhere. I don't remember at the moment. There is a concrete timeline. I'm pretty sure I've shown this to chat before. Cade came to Earth, I believe, in the 1600s. Oh, he didn't. I'll, the person who sees this, edit this out, please. For the love of fuck. He entered Earth in the 1500s and met Rem a couple of months to half a year after he'd come to Earth, which is seen in the Journal of a Ghost. With Ilios, he was more born very much later in the time, during maybe 1900s to early 2000s. There's no concrete timeline for any of them because in my head there's a lot of things that just come before a timeline, a proper timeline at least. Sin was also created later, after Cade's first reincarnation from Castiel to another person. When the gods began to like kind of consider, oh yeah, we should probably have someone check in on them and, you know, make sure that they don't fuck around and, you know, because Castiel was a voidling and they didn't want the voidling to be the first bestiary keeper. That wasn't something they'd done or knew about. And Castiel's entire story was that he became stuck in the ether, which is the plane between once you die, you enter the ether and then you enter death. It's kind of a middle ground, like a little bridge over to the end, where Castiel was stuck till he reincarnated to another person. With Patchwork, he was, I think what I settled on was around the 1700s to late 1700s, in between there, like 1750-esque. After Rem died and Cade begun to, you know, kind of lose his goddamn mind. He created Patchwork out of loneliness, out of genuine loneliness, because him and Miss Midnight weren't exactly on good friend terms as of said time. Because it was complicated between the two of them after what happened with Callahan. I'm not completely sure, because the D&D session that it comes from is in the 1900s, but I don't know when he will be have been born. But he will not. His entire thing is basically he will not be able to turn. He will only live to the day he's 38. I believe it is. I can double check that actually. But he made a pact with an entity, so he cannot live past 38. I believe it is. And he has a tattoo on his neck of that. So I had like kind of a set the deal in stone. Okay. What is the OC's favorite timeline? Favorite pastime? Cade likes to read a lot. And travel. He is very much the type of person to travel all around the world. Especially after he got the safety and, you know, Star Lab and Moon Zero's backing to be able to travel without being hunted. And reading and just picking flowers, pretty much. Midnight likes to sleep. He's eternally sleepy. Patchwork, he likes to help around in Moon Zero, so basically he's like kind of the... He has the worker mentality where he just wants to people please everyone, so he just helps around on Moon Zero, and he's very happy with that. But he also likes to hang out with Elios once Elios enters Moon Zero later on. And the two of them hang out. Callahan likes to drink and bar hop and just enjoy his time, you know. He likes to have a good time with them. Then, I don't know. She's kind of just like... She's always seeking power, so she's probably out there just fucking killing something. Or trying to find Cade. Because Cade is the reason she wants a bestiary. She wants a bestiary book, which Cade protects. He's essentially the protector of the bestiary book. Which documents all supernatural creatures, their everything. In the past time she's training, yeah, I think so, yeah. Does your OC eat 4 to 6 slices of bread a day like me? I don't know. I don't actually know. None of them are really... I guess Elios, yes? Maybe? I don't know. The next question is, how traumatized are your OCs, and what, if established, is the source of it? Oh god, okay, this is gonna go into very deep topics, so if you want to not listen to that, skip ahead. And trigger warning for anything like kind of sensitive. And huge spoiler warning right here for Cade's story, for everyone's story. Cade was always the youngest voidling and was kind of picked on and bullied by their older siblings. Even though the voidlings are a hive mind, there are kind of statuses within it. Like the mother is the top and their word is final. They do anything to protect the mother. But the other voidlings, though Cade is one of the oldest, didn't really like them and they picked on them a lot. And Cade always had an innate fear for the mother to kind of be like, they're the responsibility to keep them alive, and that kind of burdened them a lot. And once Cade reached Earth, the mother basically began to torment them through dreams and vivid memories. The mother would connect their like minds together because they all have telepathy between all of them. Their minds are somewhat connected, to torment Cade and give him immense guilt through both physical and verbal abuse, basically. To get him to come back, basically throwing everything at Cade so he will cower and come back to the mother because, you know, he's a part of the everything. After that, basically Rem began to help him sort through all of those feelings and kind of come to means with it. But after Rem died, he kind of began to spiral so bad that he began to kill anything and everything around him. He fought with Midnight every single day, every single night. They would be on the hunt for each other every single time because Cade was just so lost in grief. With Patchwork, he has a sense of like no meaning to life. His trauma comes a lot from the early treatment with Cade because Cade didn't know how to process any of it, any of his grief, any of his trauma, any of his shit that had happened prior. And did kind of isolate and did not treat Patchwork super well. Though he didn't really get physical, he was very cold and distant towards Patchwork, making Patchwork rethink their entire life choices because they were basically made for Cade. So for them, it was kind of a lot of, why was I made? I can't be the one to make this person happy. Why was I made? And kind of spiraling into a lot of dysphoria, being not happy and sure with their own body. Which is why they have a lot of like different tails, different colored paws, all that sort of thing, to kind of try and find their own identity, find their own place. And Patchwork's story isn't exactly completed to an extent, so the poor baby is gonna go through more. I'm sorry. But that is the root of most of it. Helios, oh god. Religion, yay. We're getting on to religion, yay. Okay. What Felt wanted when she came to Earth and made a human timeline for them was that she wanted people to basically treat each other kindly. That was her thought of it. She wanted people to treat each other kindly and her descendants to be the ones to help the weaker, protect the weaker. That was their entire thing. But over the time period from when Felt went back to the Godlands, or like went back because she couldn't stay there, each descendant afterwards began to twist the religion into you have to be the judge of everything. And when Helios arrived, he was born female, which he does not really, he didn't really feel like a female, you know, the trans kind of line of that. And when he began to transition and do parts of his life and came out as parents, they basically threw him out. They threw him out on the doorstep. Because in their eyes, the religion was that every one of them was blessed to be the jury and to be the one to judge everyone. And basically, if Helios transitioned, they weren't blessed anymore because they were technically not in their original form from their perspective. Though Felt, in irony, became more connected to Helios and gave him more power because she kind of saw his kindness and his will to be the one to protect the weaker, because he'd get in fights in school a lot to try and protect people who were bullied, and Felt kind of saw all of that and saw how the parents treated him and gave him more power. And the two of them have a very, very big connection because Felt isn't transphobic. Her morals weren't based on gender or anything like that. It was to protect the weaker, to give humanity kindness and love back in return, because she's seen all of the abuse and all of the shit that people went through. And she looked at Helios and was like, fuck, you went through this, I'm so sorry. I will be there, basically. So they have a connection between the two of them. But of course, because Ilios was treated so horribly by both his parents and his classmates, he kind of developed a lot of like problems due to that, and paranoia and a weird sense of what it's called, like anger issues, where he couldn't really control himself because he was just so angry at the world and angry at everything around him. So he became the moral compass of that sort of thing, which is kind of based on my own experience, I'm gonna be completely honest. So, and it was my take on religion, though I know that it can be a very sensitive topic to talk about. I know that not every person is going to agree with what I say and what I made my religion and false religion into. It is how I perceived and wanted that to end. Ilios kind of began to wander around and didn't really have a home or place to stay or food or anything. So he traveled to the place near Willow's Creek, which is a creek and a forest that is kind of very, very dangerous. Willow's Creek is basically an enchanted, cursed forest. It is a forest that was made to protect species and hybrids that live in it, because they cannot protect themselves until they become a guardian of that place, but that's a different. And it sends out a kind of ringtone, like tinnitus, if you've ever heard that kind of like loud ringtone. It sends out that to anyone who comes close enough to it to kind of tell you, yo, you're not supposed to be here, fuck off. Because it doesn't want to claim more lives than it has to protect its own kind of people. Ilios found forest and was sadly lured in. And he witnessed, he met the curse. Basically, when he entered the forest, his mind was overcome with the ringing tone, and he, for years, became like a part of the forest, being shown himself slowly decaying, as he could not do anything to stop it, which is very morbid. And before he was about to die, like, he was very close to death when this happened, a little, I don't know what to call them, a hybrid, I guess, a minor OC of mine who I've shown briefly, called Null, who was one of the protectors of the forest, saw him in the state and kind of pushed him out of the forest. Where Cade and his team found Ilios off dead, basically, at this point. And they didn't resurrect him exactly because he wasn't dead, but like they nursed him back to health, and he became a part of them in Zero, basically. But Null was never seen, or he does not remember Null or the other Guardians at all. Midnight. Ooh, this one goes back to Cade. I'm happy. Okay. Midnight was very close to the first Bestiary Keeper, Castiel. The two of them were like best friends, soulmates. They were each other's everything. And when Castiel began to lose his mind in the ether, Midnight had to watch. He had to watch his best friend lose every memory and sense of self before he reincarnated, and Midnight didn't know where or who he was going to be. So he began to look around, try and find the next Bestiary Keeper, because he was supposed to protect them. That was his entire purpose. And after each one, he began to just distance himself, because he just felt the hate. Because each of them didn't look like Castiel, and he wanted his best friend back. That went on for millennia, where he would just slowly lose his mind because he just missed his friend so goddamn much, and he'd watched this person lose their fucking mind. Every single sense of themselves, every memory, every sense of who he was as a person, personality traits, memories, body. And he had to watch that. And when Cade came to Earth, he wasn't particularly happy, because Cade looked like Castiel. They looked identical. And Midnight didn't fucking like that, because now that he'd overcome this, or quote-unquote overcome, you know, now that he'd suppressed all his memories and feelings, it was all bubbling up again. And it was all coming back, and it was so painful for him. So when he saw Cade first, he didn't fucking do anything. He didn't come near him and didn't let Cade know anything because he was just so tired and exhausted. But he would watch him. Funny enough, he was there in every single part of Cade's early life for the first 100 years he was on Earth. He would watch him and protect him. He just didn't tell Cade anything because he was just so in pain from everything. And when the shit with Rem happened, he knew he had to protect Cade. Cade was the one thing he had to protect. He didn't give a shit about Rem because he knew he couldn't lose Cade. So overwhelmed with the sense of guilt and pain of all of that, he grabbed Cade and ran, leaving Rem to die. And Cade really blames him for that. He fucking hated him for so long for that. Because he couldn't understand why he wouldn't grab Rem instead. He knew one of them would die there. He chose Cade. And the two of them fought a lot. But once Patchwork came into the picture, and their entire thing, like Cade began to shift his focus to Patchwork and all that sort of thing, the two began to talk more and more and kind of come on equal terms. Though Cade doesn't exactly know what happened that made Midnight the way he is, he knows that it has to do with his prior versions after being explained what he was and everything like that. And though Midnight isn't in any sense healed, he does love Cade with every part of his soul. Not only because he was made for Cade, but because he loves Cade as a person, even with everything that happened. I don't think there's anyone else I haven't explained. So we'll move on to the question. Where does the story begin? Where did these characters come from? I think if my timeline is correct, and I will double check this because I have a server for my OCs. Yippee! Cade has been with me my entire life since I was 13 and below. He has had various versions of himself, which kind of became why I made him the way he is. I've had a lot of other OCs before any of the ones that you know of, but a lot of them have kind of shifted into inspiration to each of the OCs that you guys are aware of and know as people. I think it was Cade came first with Midnight, and then I had a couple of other people. I made the Willow Creek, and then I kind of began to add Null and other things there. And then I ended with, I think Crowley came before Fish. Crowley's another OC from Skulls and Sins, which is a book that I wrote about an asexual guy in a world that was kind of chaotic and stuff like that. It's a very serious adult book. And then Fish came because I was like having a Resident Evil hyperfixation. Most of these characters are from hyperfixations and things and experiences that I wanted to show through art, through ways to kind of explain and like tell stories, because there are things that I've experienced and shit that I've done and experienced that I want to tell the world through characters. So they're basically my little puppets, I guess, to explain and show stories and create a world and create a universe. Yeah, I think that answers that question. I guess we can do like a little you ask me questions.
How did you get the names for each of your characters?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Cade, I think in Greek means king. And I found that out at some point after he'd been named Luca for quite a while. Or Lucky, because of a bunny that I had when I was younger. And I kind of just said, fuck it, he's gonna be named Cade. With Ilios, I don't exactly recall, but I think it was also, it means something else. Yeah, Ilios means sun. Ilios means sun. In some language, I don't remember which one. Fish is an abbreviation. Fish is the code name for the hybrid and the project that the hybrid came from, which is Find, Infect, Subjugate, I think it was called, and one other word, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. I think I've said this abbreviation before. Sin was awkwardly inspired by Murder Drone's Sin, but I made it different because their actual label of name is called Synth of the Gods. But they chose Sin for themselves to become more, their own person, I guess, in a sense. Midnight is from Frambo, of course, and Callahan. I don't remember. I think I just thought about different names and they just came in my head. I was just like going through like different names in my head that I thought sounded cool, and I was like, okay, Callahan. That's what you'll be called. It doesn't really particularly mean anything, and I don't really feel like it should mean anything particular.
So all your names should have meaning.
It's just how I am. It's just how I am. I don't know. Next question.
All my names should have all my names should have meaning except for my D&D also.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions? Oh yeah, I do remember with Patchwork, one of the things I found very fun to do was kind of its relation with Midnight. Because Patchwork is very much a people pleaser and very shy and introverted and likes to like make other people happy, whilst Midnight is like a fucking bitch that doesn't really like anyone except Cade. So Patchwork would make himself small whenever him and Midnight got in a fight, so that the two could brawl around and be on like equal grounds, even though Midnight could shapeshift because he's technically an entity with like no proper form. He's just perceived what he is perceived as. And he has the cat form because a lot of people have a supposition about black cats meaning bad luck, so they don't really go near them. So Midnight is pretty much fucking clear of humans. But Patchwork just kind of said, fuck it, I'm gonna be your size and I'm gonna fight you. Let's fucking go, bro. Shut up.
Never took Midnight as a fair fighter, honestly.
Yeah, he's a fair fighter unless he's being serious. If he's being serious, you are fucking fucked, bro. He is the strongest entity, even above Sin. He's the strongest fucking entity so far, which is fucking hilarious. And he could take Cade and Patchwork in a fight 2v1 easily. But he's just like, he doesn't want to actually hurt Patchwork. He has some sense of like, he knows Cade will be sad if he hurts Patchwork, so he doesn't try. Yeah. Welcome back from the pause of the autistic rant. I have 3 questions that has been sent in, mostly by me and Enzo. So, the first one is, what are the characters' sexuality and gender? This one is very interesting to me because it is very important to me to have proper stuff like that, and I even celebrated Pride Month with my characters, which is kind of a fun fact. So, Cade is, he is non-binary under the trans umbrella, and he uses he, they. He was supposed to be agender, but I feel like with agender, it doesn't really fit him in the same sense. Then we have Patchwork, which is agender fully, and is it, they, it. We have Ilios, which is a trans man, and he is gay. With Sin is genderqueer, pretty much does not give a fuck, pretty aero ace, doesn't really give a shit about relations or anything. Midnight is non-binary.
We didn't specify Elias's pronouns.
Elias's pronouns are he, him.
What's it?
Sin's pronouns are Sin, any, pretty much. Like I envision her as a femme person, but she is just a thing, pretty much.
She doesn't care enough.
Yeah, she does not give 2 shits enough. Callahan is he, they, I think, and asexual. He doesn't, I don't know where he fits on the sexuality, like what his preference is. But I don't think, like, he feels very pansexual because I feel like he could date anyone based on personality, but I don't know if there's like another word for that or if pansexual is the best description for that.
How about panromantic?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, sure. Did anyone else
you know, because you said he's ace, so
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, panorama. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're learning labels on this channel here. Let's go. Did anyone else have a partner? Kate is the only one who's confirmed to have a partner, though Callahan had a couple of flings trying to figure out what he was, but once he became like realistically sexual, he hasn't really had any confirmed partner. Patchwork, no, I don't see them with anyone really. Ilios, not really, but I've always struggled more with the romantic side now that I've like been so comfortable in my own like labels as era ace that giving people a partner has been kind of like out of the question for me. Fish did have a partner at some point, but it's not really much information about them I can give because I haven't really made them a proper part yet. There has been many different designs that has been shown for Fish's girlfriend because she is into femme people, but they don't have a name or much of anything that has been really confirmed or created outside of that. I was considering making Ilios and Patchwork like quasi-platonic, but I don't really know how I feel about it because I did kind of ship them a little bit, the two of them, but I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. Do any of your characters have canonical birthdays? Right now, no, not really. Birthday wasn't something I really considered. Most of my characters are ageless. I think Ilios is half human. Patchwork, of course, is ageless, and Callahan, I haven't really given him a birthday or anything like that. It's not really been a thing I've thought about or have had any ideas for or really been interested in to any extent, I'm gonna be completely honest.
Isn't Callahan like the most important character to give a birthday to though? Because you have the thing with him dying at 38, you said?
Yeah.
So, you know, it might be good to like figure out like how long does he have, you know, would he get more paranoid as he gets closer to that, you know, death time, I guess?
Yes, but he does, and a lot of his personality is very like paranoid about that day, hence why he doesn't have any friends or any partners. He didn't really want anything, and it's been a big part of his D&D character arc, where he will not be kind to anyone or make anyone feel any friendliness towards him because he doesn't consider it morally right to become friends with someone, like have that kind of connection with someone and then die, because he knows he will die. He knows he will only make it to 38. So in his mind, he doesn't want to give anyone else the kind of pain and grief. And he doesn't see any value in having friends or partners before that time. At least at this point, currently, in his lore. Which is very morbid but and sad, but you know. If you know the day you're gonna die, it's kind of like a fucked up thing to think about, to be honest.
You should probably try and give him like a age or something so that whole thing can like have some weight to it, I guess.
I do think he's like 25. Like he feels very much 25 to me at this current moment. Like I know he only has a couple of years left, and that's where I want to hold it for now before I progress it with the storylines and all that sort of thing. But like at the moment, he feels very much 25, 24 to 25, like middle adult type shit. Well, time to do fun facts because I have no more questions, and I want to rant more about this. I just don't really know how to talk about things without being prompted giving questions about it. So, Cade has flowers in his hair, as you can see right now, and that is because it is an old kind of thing on my channel to have something called flower call, which is, you know, Moloko but flowers, where I will draw Cade and Midnight and Patchwork with flowers around. And this is because flowers are kind of his gift language. It is very connected to his time with Rem, where they would make flower crowns and they would be in the field of flowers near Rem's home and just sit there and watch and talk. And it is very, very important to him, especially sunflowers. And I always give that kind of a little bit of thought and draw him with it during the summer to just kind of give that back from the lore and stuff like that, because it's still very important to him. He is very much a gift person. He likes to give people things as like his love language. With Patchwork, when they fought, he would give Patchwork something in return. When Midnight and them thought, he would bring him food and stuff like that. So it's very much, it's like love language to give things to people. And it's a very big part of his character and very important to his character as well. And another fun fact is that Voidlings during the winter, at least Kate during the winter, has a different form, which is the fluffy form. This form. Hi, I'm very big right now. And this is because Kate isn't really, Voidlings aren't really accustomed to the winter. In their space, they didn't really have heat and cold and all that sort of stuff. So during the winter, he kind of fluffs out and becomes a little bit of a fluffy, furry type thing to kind of keep his warmth, because he gets really, really, really cold. And it is actually inspired by a type of cat. I'm very hyperfixated on animal facts, and there is a type of cat, I don't remember the name, who during the winter, because they don't have extra fluff on their paws, they will put their paws on top of their tail to kind of keep the warm. And he does that. And that's very cute, and I like that a lot. With Patchwork, his kind of love language is very much people pleaser, making other people happy. It's very much a big, big part of him. He wants to make people happy. That makes him happy. And that is very important to them as a person. I don't know what Ilios's love language is, but I think it's touch. No, Patchwork is also touch. Both of them are kind of touch. Being close to someone, holding them, hugging, that sort of thing is very important to both Ilios and Patchwork. Hence why I kind of ship them a little bit, because they were always very close to one another, touching one another, giving each other head pats, sleeping near each other with hands holding, and you know, stuff like that, because it's very important for the two of them to kind of feel connection with another person, especially Patchwork due to his trauma with Cade. And Ilios became kind of that person to Patchwork, if I'm going to be completely honest, which is very funny, because it wasn't intentional to any extent. But it just became a thing where I just drew them together. And it was kind of their way of just finding happiness and comfort in one another as a person. With Callan, I think compliments would be his love language. Some sort of verbal confirmation, affirmation type stuff would be his love language, but I'm not super, super sure with them, to be honest. And with Fish, it is gift giving. The same as Cage. But she would probably give you a rat at your doorstep. Cade would too, but yeah, that's just kind of how Fish is. One thing when it came to the gender and stuff, Rem, something a lot of people might not know, is Rem is bisexual. She had a canonical girlfriend before Cade, but the person, it's a mystery. I'm gonna keep that a mystery. Fuck it, let's keep that a mystery, because that's fun. She's bisexual, and she's very much like, she's very femme-presenting, but she doesn't fit into the cis, like, woman, if that makes sense. But she's very comfortable with her femininity and, like, being feminine and being masculine. It doesn't really matter super much to her, but she doesn't feel gender fluid either. I think the label that could fit her most is genderqueer, femme genderqueer, or that sort of thing. She's just very comfortable with her femininity, but she doesn't really care about labels or anything like that. And Cade was her second partner, I believe, if we follow the canon from what I remember. Cade also has 6 to 9 other universes where he enters Earth, each of them which has different outcomes, and this is the only one where he survives. The other ones aren't super established, but to give you a rough reference of each of them, one is where Cade becomes overwhelmed with paranoia after Rem dies, and he basically kind of morphs with Earth, and it ends up creating, like, killing everything, killing humans, plants, animals, everything. And so, caught up in his own paranoia and guilt and fear, he wanders that Earth until he dies. Out of starvation or something like that. I don't really completely figure that one out. Another universe is where he will completely fight and merge with Sin after Rem dies, to survive basically out of fear, and the two of them share a body for the rest of the time. Another one is where Cade is captured by Star Labs, which before it became Moon Zero and a part of Moon Zero, Kali began to experiment on Cade to figure out what the heck he was. Because Kali had the owner of Starlight had connections to Castiel, who was the first bestiary ever to be created, like way back in the day, because it's a siren and, you know, forever, immortal, whatever. But aside from that, I haven't really figured out super much of the timelines, and they might go back and forward whenever to kind of fit my perspective of it better. What drinks does your OC like? Cade? I'm not super sure, but I don't think it would be a soda person. Probably a coffee person, to be honest. He would very much like bitter stuff like that. Patchwork is anything sweet. Anything sweet, like strawberries, like fruit like that are sweet, chocolate, anything like that he indulges in. And he very much like that. And he would probably like fizzy drinks that have like fruity stuff in it. Ilios, I'm not super sure. But he feels very much like an energy drink type of person. Callahan is anything alcoholic, pretty much. Midnight, I don't think really cares. He just drinks water. He's not really a big fuss about any of that.
Also, I feel like Patchwork would drink orange juice.
He would, yeah, he fucking would. He fucking would, yes, 100%. Do any of them have some hyperfixation? If not, then what could they be? With Cade, his hyperfixation is very much a supernatural. He will spend so much time studying them, putting them down in a book, researching, like talking to different supernatural creatures, studying them. Most of his life has been that. So that's very much hyperfixation. Otherwise than that, it would be flowers and how they work. Because I feel like he has a very innate sense of like trying to figure out what they do. Because they're not living but not dead in his eyes. Patchwork, I'm not super sure what his hyperfixation would be. Ilios' hyperfixation would very much be about religion and trying to understand that sort of thing. Callahan really likes to study archaeology. Anything ancient, any ancient things like skulls, bodies, remains, all the sort of objects he finds during his huntings. He loves to study it, find out about the history and all that sort of stuff. Though I haven't really researched a lot about it, which I will do. It's a good question, but I don't think I've thought about it enough to really give a concrete answer about many of my OCs, I'm gonna be completely honest. Fish's hyperfixation would probably be about the dead and the virus and that sort of thing, like science. I think she would have a very big interest in trying to figure out what she is, but I don't know if it would be a hyperfixation. I don't really like giving my OCs labels because it could, though it could give people representation, there's also the like stigma that come with it, or people misinterpreting, or like I give them a lot of my experiences and responses to trauma that they've been through and all that sort of thing, but I don't like giving them labels because it could harm a lot more than it could do good in my eyes. Though if people want, I could give like a general what I think they could be diagnosed as by those definitions, but I don't really think they have any proper diagnosis or any like proper stuff like that. Hello chat, this is day 2 of recording and I just want to add on a couple of things that I have done because I found all the archives of things I've written about my characters and I wanted to kind of just spitball it all at you. So Fish's backstory is the first one I wanted to talk about. As Fish, most of you guys know them as a hybrid, Fish was one of the first few that survived the early phases of the experiment by Star Labs or Mint Zero or whatever they were called in that time. I'm not completely sure what I called them. Mostly supported and mentored by Samuel to be prepared for the project. She was loyal and excited for her duties, believing that what they were doing was right and she was going to be a hero for doing that. This lasted well into her teenage years, though technically she has no age. During her first mission, she killed and infected a third of the citizens, 7k people, in 3 days, before remaining dormant to protect the main target, going into hibernation for 3 days until she awoke due to scouters attempting to find food. FISH was a project born to be target specific, so basically she was sent to target specific people, often who had a lot of money or some connection to Mint Zero. Through genetic combination with said virus aptly named FTB, and was one of the 15 kids that endured the procedure. They'd be continuously subjected to the toxins from birth, and many died or, due to the blood type, became different types of infected, like the vial. This is because of how the virus kind of responded to their blood type. F143, aka Fish, was one of these, living shortly and upon death spread its blood like veins, looking like a tree that released spores into the air, spreading the infection. Because of the many different blood types reacting differently to the virus, the many varieties of the infections evolved through the month after the first apocalypse. Also FTB, which is a virus, there is no tear. They wanted to infect the population through fish toxins taken from pufferfish and others mixed together. The infected person without panic, like Loki. It picked off companies that sold food material to put virus in the promise that they wouldn't be infected, though that was a lie. And the first wave of infection began, people would die like of suffocation, having visible blood pooling in their ears, or they would die from suffocation with their just throat kind of locking up, or that they would just fall and just knock it up. This pod was born after material transferred only from Carly to Edward's, Samuel's grandfather. Edward was very religious, believing in all Christianity, and after losing his wife, retreated to religion to cope, rationalizing that death wasn't the end. He began to look at support for the research through the black market connections Carly had made over the years, and the research were first to resurrect the dead, but then caused that death leading to several experiments in the early 2000s-ish, where they had a breakthrough, mixing a pre-med virus with toxins from fish like pufferfish. They thought if the death was unnoticed, they could lead the experiment through unknowing subjects of the public and paid several companies hushers money to apply this to food. It led to the first infection where Fish's story takes place in. And Fish was kind of very, very inspired by Resi, the early Resi games with the raccoon incident, so most of her story takes kind of form with that, though at the time my thoughts were about religion, though that comes more to Ilios, and at the moment I'm not super sure if I will keep that as canon, but it will probably be still that, but maybe not religion based. It just depends on what I will feel like. Sin also has their own page, where the description is, Sin has ragged hair and dresses in a hunter's outfit. She's greedy, selfish, and indulgent. She loves chaos and is only loyal to those who prove her right to be loyal to. Very few. And she will use other entities to further her own goal. She is very selfish and, as of right now, does not have any friends or connections that survived past her time on Earth. She was created to balance Kate's appearance, and as you all know about what I spoke about her before. We also have Willow Creek. Now, those who paid attention earlier in the video will know that Willow Creek is an enchanted forest. There are several different entities that live in the forest, like spine trees that are entities that form birch trees, very thin but strong and tall. Very heavily inspired by Gravity Falls, one of the episodes, but I wanted to make my own version and try and kind of like expand on it. We also have moss rabbits because I have a bunny, and the main people that live there, the main entities that the forest was created to kind of like protect, was the bats that live there, because they mutated during a war very early on, I don't know, a couple of hundred years or something. And most are deaf or have adjusted to the sound. I have a few of the like gods. So on the gods, like, because I have spoken briefly about having gods in my story and gods on my in my world, and I actually made a Tumblr post about it where I explained it, but I wanted to talk about it because you know, it's very cool, and I thought it would be very interesting for you guys to watch and listen to me talk about it. So the system for the gods are basically, there are gods, and below that are like lesser gods, and below that are human-made gods. human-made gods are humans that became gods, basically, but they have less power. And it's very cool. I'm gonna see if I can find. I made a little bit. Yeah. The multiverse I created is vast, and people mostly see through kids' perspective, but I built more. And some of the gods, some people might remember from my very old animation era where I began animating and stuff, where I had an OC called Percy. Percy or Percival or Pluto, who was named after the planet that is not a planet anymore, or like not recognized as a planet anymore. And it's a minor god of creation, sealed away as punishment for his human sins. In his human life, he was an alcoholic, and he managed to set his house on fire, killing his entire family and himself. And he regrets that every day, but the gods kind of punish him by doing that, and making him be in an isolated space where he cannot interact with anyone else, and just watch minor planets and minor Earths drift by. I was gonna create a book about him, but I really didn't think much of it. We have Felt, who is the god of inanimate, who, you know, is the grandmother of Ilios. And the Order, which is the original god who created the ether, the void. They rule Earth and are mostly responsible for entities like Sin and Cade. They're also responsible for Midnight and the Willow and the original coven that created Rem, though there is one of them who Rem speaks about being their god that their coven kind of prays to and views with faith, is the one who created them. So it's their specific god, kind of, who created their system and created the witches. And that is very much like, I don't remember what it was inspired by, but it was very fun to mess around with that sort of thing and just think about the consequences and how the gods of this world act. And like, now also found in my notes about Ilios that Felt left the original people who were the parents, grandparents or whatever of Ilios, with scriptures of the rules, morals, and told every human to follow it in order to continue the blessing. Basically, if they didn't follow the scriptures and morals of what Felt wanted them to do, they would not be given the powers that they have. And these read as 1. Do not lay a finger on an innocent person. 2. Treat each others like you treat yourself. 3. Only bind yourself to another which will not stray from the god. This was mostly to keep them to not like stop believing, because I don't know, I felt one was kind of scared that they were gonna stop believing in her. But there are people who are married into the family, who have become a part of the religion and stuff like that. You're not to throw the first punch. Defend the ones that cannot defend themselves. Shall one lay a hand on a weaker being, wrath may be carried out as seen needed. And the last one, which I kind of like, death is but another step of life. Be not afraid, you will see me again. Which is really like, I've spoken about this before, but I really don't believe in death as being the last part of life. It is like kind of a bit of faith that I have, as I've lost a lot of people, and it's kind of how I cope with it, I guess, but it's also just kind of nice to believe that this isn't the only life you will lead, kind of being reincarnated, but you will probably not remember the other lives you've led. It's kind of bittersweet, I guess. Ilios also has some notes that I thought I'd like to talk about. Ilios was nicknamed Creep and Doll by others during his high school years before he got kicked out and stuff, and he reclaimed it later as a cope with his heavy dysmorphia. He often did prayers when he felt like he was having a really hard time dealing with everything, his parents' transphobia, etc. And did it with, I hope you hear my prayers even if I'm only your son. And it was a clear sign he didn't really consider himself blessed anymore, being like internal transphobia, considering himself as not blessed because he's not in the quote-unquote true body that he was blessed in when he became, when he was born. he didn't see himself as worthy because he wasn't cis, and in his family eyes, that meant he wasn't blessed nor felt his powers. Though Felt only grew closer to him through these prayers and responded with like kind of like supernatural, kind of like, oh yeah, in the morning he will see a very bright day, or he will like minor signs to show that she does listen. She just can't contact him properly. He has some main traits, which is he's naive by his upbringing, choosing to believe everyone is better than what he saw. His righteous wrath and poor restraint at that. And he does have a hero complex due to his blessing, but anger often overcomes his good intention. And it is kind of like a little bit of having to learn how to deal with the fact that you are the only person that you can trust, and dealing with a lot of inner transphobia, having no family connections anymore, having to witness your death over and over again during the Willow Creek era, and etc. He has a lot of hardship with that sort of thing, and it is very difficult for him. I also have some nope, Callahan doesn't have any notes, but I thought I would talk about that because there's a lot of stuff that I've just posted and put out that people are probably not aware of on Tumblr and on Wattpad, because I don't know where else to really post chapters or writing or anything. But here's a little fun facts about Cade. Cade is the second bestiary keeper voidling in the recorded history, and he doesn't know much about the other keepers, as Miss Midnight doesn't talk about them a lot. He has a lot of regrets and doesn't feel very scared to return, as he knows how mad the mother is and how unbalanced the void became because he left through the rift, and has heavy survival guilt. And he also wonders if any of the other voidlings felt like he did, more than just a creature. He's very much a fake it till you make it person, but forces himself to go through something out of spite. His favorite motto is, "Trust me, I can handle this." Very much like me. He'd reached out to Artemis, who is a witch who he would continue to work with through Moon Zero. Part of a coven. Not Rem's coven, but another coven. And he would reach out to Artemis during the early days of Moon Zero in hopes to find out more about Rem's coven. Artemis is a part of the Hunter coven, and they became acquaintances, though Artemis struggled to get close to Cade, as many of the other people did. Cade's time during Moon Zero, he didn't really get close to anyone because he was just so caught up in his own head and having to deal with everything, you know. Other fun fact is, what I believe it's just right eye. Cade's right eye is actually a scar. It is a part of the Journal of a Ghost lore-wise. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but he can somewhat see out of it, but his sight is diminished heavily. He's empathetic to creatures he meets, not wanting to harm, and seeing them as equal, which I've spoken about before. And he's very much a very introverted person now due to everything. But if you want to know more about everything with Rem, Cade, Patchwork, even Elios is going to show up, you should read the Journal of a Ghost, and I will probably make a little book about Callahan and his entire journey at the end, because I think that would be really cool. But if you want to see anything else, if you want to see updates, behind the scenes, how I work, my flow, all this sort of stuff, go to my Patreon. It's $1 and you can get all the best parts of everything. You will see everything before anyone else. And you get to talk to me, so, you know, why not? Good night.